Lyle and Marie McCann were last spotted on July 3, 2010, embarking on a road trip from their beloved St. Albert, Alberta, to the picturesque Chilliwack in British Columbia. Just days later, their charred motorhome was unearthed, igniting a search that ultimately led to the apprehension of Travis Vader. Charged with second-degree murder in connection with the McCann's tragic fate, their remains have yet to be located. On September 15, 2016, Vader was found guilty, but this conviction was overturned on October 31, 2016, resulting in a manslaughter verdict. Lyle Thomas McCann, born on August 24, 1931, near Red Deer, Alberta, was one of 6 siblings and spent many years as a long-haul truck driver traversing North America. Marie McCann, née Waltz, born on October 15, 1932, in Torrington, Alberta, was one of 7 children. The couple wed on July 30, 1952, in Torrington, and made St. Albert their home in 1964, raising 3 children together. At the time of their disappearance, Lyle was 78 and Marie was 77. On that fateful day, they set off for a vacation, planning to collect their daughter from Abbotsford International Airport on July 10th. They were last seen fueling their 1999 Gulfstream coach motorhome at a Superstore gas station in St. Albert, with their green Hyundai Tucson in tow, before presumably heading towards the Yellowhead Highway. On the evening of July 5th, firefighters responded to a blaze at the Minnow Lake campground near Edson, Alberta, where the motorhome was found, but no bodies were recovered. The police confirmed the vehicle belonged to the McCanns, although the Hyundai Tucson was missing. When the couple failed to arrive at Abbotsford Airport on July 10th, their daughter, Trudy Holder, alerted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, prompting the issuance of a missing persons report. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police discerned a link between the charred motorhome and the mysterious disappearance of the McCanns, prompting them to initiate extensive aerial and ground searches. On July 16th, they located the McCanns' SUV in proximity to Highway 16 and Range Road 144, approximately 30 kilometers east of Edson. It soon became evident that foul play was suspected in the McCann's case. Concurrently, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police identified a person of interest, 38-year-old Travis Edward Vader, who had no fixed address. At that time, Vader was already wanted on multiple warrants and had a troubling criminal record, which included vehicular theft in 1995, possession of burglary tools, unauthorized vehicle operation, and various weapons charges in August 2009. His history also encompassed the theft and incineration of a truck in December 2009, as well as careless use and unauthorized possession of a firearm in June 2010. On July 19, 2010, Vader was apprehended near Neaton Junction, Alberta, on unrelated warrants. On July 27th, his sister, Bobby Jo, disclosed to the press that he had stayed with her family in Edmonton on July 4th, just a day after the McCanns were last seen, and that he seemed tired, sick, and in need of rest. While still in custody, Vader was officially named a suspect in the McCanns' disappearance on August 31, 2010. On September 10th, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police announced a search of a property south of Nojak, Alberta, as part of their investigation. By September 14th, they concluded their search of the site, which included a pond and septic tank, as well as thorough examinations of debris. This property was owned by an acquaintance of Vader, and a dive team was deployed to investigate the pond and septic tank. Despite being in custody, Vader was denied bail on March 18, 2011, as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police believed he possessed crucial information regarding the McCanns or had some involvement in their case, although he faced no charges directly related to the investigation. Months later, on June 27, 2011, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police conducted a search of a property near Lodgepole, Alberta, situated southwest of Edmonton, as part of their ongoing investigation. By July 27, 2011, a court had officially declared the McCanns deceased. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police had come to believe that the couple had been murdered on the very day of their disappearance. Vader faced another denial of bail on February 15, 2012. Subsequently, on April 23, 2012, he was formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder concerning the deaths of Lyle and Marie McCann, although the location of their remains remained a mystery. These charges were later stayed by the Crown on March 13, 2014. On October 12, 2012, Vader was convicted of various offenses, including drug trafficking, theft, and weapons-related charges, but a new trial was mandated due to previously undisclosed evidence. On February 13, 2014, he initiated a lawsuit against the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, alleging that they had unlawfully detained him until he could be charged with the McCanns' deaths. On October 8, 2014, Vader was acquitted of 9 charges unrelated to the McCanns case and was released shortly thereafter. Upon his release, he expressed to the media that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had probably destroyed my life. They put me in jail for 4 years to investigate me when there was nothing there to begin with, adding that he had no knowledge of the McCanns and that his heart goes out to them. On December 19, 2014, Vader was arrested once more in St. Albert in connection with the McCanns' deaths, with their bodies still unaccounted for. On September 15, 2016, he was acquitted of first-degree murder, but found guilty of second-degree murder, with the possibility of parole in 10 to 25 years. This verdict drew immediate criticism from legal experts who argued that it was based on a law previously deemed unconstitutional. On October 31, 2016, Justice Denny Thomas overturned the original conviction, leading to Vader's conviction for manslaughter. On January 25, 2017, Vader received a life sentence, with the possibility of parole after 7 years. On July 7, 1999, the world bid farewell to 72-year-old Hugh Sinclair, whose life was tragically cut short in his luxurious 42nd-floor residence at 44 Charles Street West, nestled within the prestigious Manulife Center. Remarkably, his assailant was apprehended before the discovery of Sinclair's lifeless form. A retired employee of Sun Life, Sinclair was not only known for his professional accomplishments, but also for his passion for collecting exquisite antiques. 5 years prior, he had formed a bond with the 29-year-old Timothy Cullum, united by their shared appreciation for art and antiquities. Sinclair was often characterized as an eccentric figure, affectionately dubbed an antique hoarder. His distinctive style included a Panama hat paired with tank tops and shorts, a choice he maintained regardless of the season, complemented by his meticulously structured daily routines. It was the disruption of these habits that raised concerns among those around him. Sinclair was a gregarious individual, frequently seen in a lawn chair beside a nearby parking kiosk, engaging in lengthy conversations with attendant Rod McEwen. After nearly daily interactions for 5 years, McEwen grew increasingly worried about Sinclair's unexpected absence, ultimately persuading a security guard from the Manulife Center to accompany him for a welfare check. On July 12th, they entered Sinclair's apartment, only to find everything seemingly in order. Undeterred, McEwen made daily phone calls to the apartment and filed a missing person report with the authorities. Days later, neighbor Douglas Rutter, recalling his youth spent working in a cemetery, detected a foul odor emanating from Sinclair's apartment. "I told partner Lawrence Schaefer, it smells like something died. "I recognized that smell," he recounted during the trial. However, the odor eventually dissipated. 11 days posthumously, Cullum was observed by the same neighbors removing furniture from the apartment. On July 18th, he claimed to Schaefer and Rutter that he was Sinclair's nephew, asserting that Sinclair had requested his assistance in relocating some belongings and refreshing the apartment with a coat of paint. Cullum had gained entry to the residence through a forged note, shrouding his true intentions in deception. Parking attendant McEwen diligently sought information regarding Sinclair, ultimately receiving word from the front desk staff that Sinclair was away on a 10-day holiday. Upon his subsequent inquiry, McEwen learned that the police had become involved in the matter. In a fortunate turn for law enforcement, Cullum had not painted the apartment. However, he was apprehended on suspicion of theft after authorities uncovered that he had sold numerous antiques belonging to Sinclair to dealers in Toronto. Cullum was arrested while resting on a park bench with an electronic key to Sinclair's residence found in his possession. Additionally, he carried tens of thousands of dollars in checks from local antique dealers. Disturbingly, traces of Sinclair's blood were discovered smeared across the stove, kitchen floor, and within the front closet. The police successfully matched the blood to DNA samples obtained from Sinclair's electric razor. Just 5 days post-murder, Cullum rented a 1987 blue Chevrolet Cavalier, which authorities believed he used to transport Sinclair's body to a location outside Toronto. Known to frequent Casino-Rama in Orillia, this area, along with Nottawa, became a focal point for the police search. The Crown posited that Cullum, driven by a gambling addiction, had murdered Sinclair to pilfer his antiques for profit. The estimated value of the recovered items reached approximately $300,000. Upon his arrest, Cullum denied any acquaintance with Sinclair. Although the police had yet to locate Sinclair's body or the murder weapon before Cullum's trial, they charged him with first-degree murder based on circumstantial evidence. Authorities urged hikers and hunters to remain vigilant for the body, suggesting it was likely within 50 meters of a road, possibly burned, with a gas can likely nearby. Eventually, police discovered a gas can and hacksaw in the possession of one of Cullum's associates, to whom he had claimed he would no longer require the items. The defense raised the possibility of suicide, questioning Dr. Eric Kotzer, Sinclair's physician, about any concerns he might have had regarding Sinclair's mental state. Dr. Kotzer revealed that he was providing treatment to Sinclair for a multitude of health issues, including a long-standing 30-year dependency on Valium. However, he had not been informed of any suicidal ideations. During the trial, Cullum remained silent. On June 14, 2001, after a mere 2 days of deliberation, the jury rendered a verdict of guilty for first-degree murder against Cullum. He was subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for 25 years. In a grim turn of events just before Christmas in 2002, a land surveyor stumbled upon some of Sinclair's remains near a highway. His skull and additional body parts were located in Utica, along Highway 12, which connects Toronto and Orillia. Dental records were utilized to verify Sinclair's identity. However, due to the advanced state of decay of the remains, forensic experts were unable to ascertain the cause of death.
On November 11, 1988, a tragic event occurred in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Canada. Byron Carr, a 36-year-old high school teacher, was being expected at a family gathering but failed to show up. Concerned for his well-being, his family attempted to reach him, and when they could not, they decided to visit his home. What they discovered was devastating. As law enforcement began their investigation, it became evident that Byron had been harboring a secret, one that he had concealed from nearly everyone, including his own family. The community of Charlottetown and Byron's family were left in shock, grappling with the reality that a murderer was at large. Questions loomed. Who could have perpetrated such a brutal crime against Byron, and what was the hidden truth he had kept? On Friday, November 11th, 1988, Byron's family began to feel anxious when he didn't arrive for their scheduled family gathering, and their attempts to reach him by phone went unanswered throughout the night. The following morning, November 12th, they decided to visit his home in Charlottetown. Upon their arrival, they discovered the back door was ajar. Inside, everything appeared to be in order. His dog was barking from its kennel, and dishes were left on the counter, but Byron was missing. With a sense of dread, they approached his bedroom door. There, on the bed, lay Byron, lifeless. The initial shock quickly morphed into horror as they realized he had been stabbed. The police were called to the scene, and their arrival marked the beginning of a detailed investigation. Detectives concluded that Byron had been strangled, with the stab wound occurring post-mortem. Among the items found in Byron's home, police discovered significant evidence: a pair of unfamiliar underwear and a set of socks tossed in the trash. These items seemed out of place and were collected for further analysis. The underwear contained male bodily fluid from an unidentified man, unveiling a shocking truth to Byron's family. He was gay and had met someone shortly before his murder. To piece together his last moments, investigators interviewed his friends. They learned that Byron had met with them for coffee on the evening of November 10th, before heading out to meet others in Charlottetown. Witnesses confirmed he had been at several bars that night, socializing and having a good time. Conversations with Byron's friends indicated that his last known activity occurred just before 3 a.m. on November 11th, when he had given a friend a ride home. The question remains, how did a man who set out for an enjoyable evening end up deceased in his own bed? The peculiar circumstances surrounding the case left law enforcement perplexed. Additionally, Byron's sexual orientation presented unique challenges for the investigation. Many witnesses and acquaintances were reluctant to come forward, fearing the repercussions of revealing their identities in a society that was not fully accepting of LGBTQ+ individuals. These elements contributed to the case quickly becoming stagnant. Some speculated that the police were not fully committed to the investigation due to Byron's sexuality. It would take many years before the Charlottetown police experienced a breakthrough that would help them reconstruct Byron's final known moments. 2 decades after the case had stalled, a significant development occurred when a key detail emerged. In 2008, a witness reported having seen Byron in the early hours of November 11, 1988, shortly before his demise. This individual recounted that Byron had stopped at an intersection around 3 a.m. to converse with a man on a bicycle. After a brief exchange, Byron resumed his journey home, with the cyclist seemingly following him. This revelation provided fresh insight into the case, although the police were initially cautious, given the 20-year gap. However, the witness's successful polygraph test lent credibility to their account. Authorities theorized that this unidentified cyclist had accompanied Byron home, where an intimate encounter turned fatal when the man allegedly strangled Byron. The intrigue surrounding the case intensified as additional witnesses emerged in the following years. One individual claimed to have observed an unfamiliar vehicle lingering outside Byron's residence on the evening of November 11th before it sped away. This scenario suggested that the perpetrator had revisited Byron's residence later that day, following the heinous act. Authorities speculated that the assailant either returned solo or rendezvoused with an accomplice at Byron's abode on the evening of November 11th. Their intent appeared to be the meticulous cleanup of the crime scene, erasing any trace of their presence, including fingerprints and DNA. To ensure no evidence was left behind, they donned socks. In a chilling act, one of them inflicted a stab wound on Byron long after his demise, perhaps to leave a more macabre signature. Subsequently, the duo made their escape. A pivotal clue emerged from one of Byron's former students, a mysterious individual who harbored an obsession with Byron. Byron once confided in me about a man who frequently called him, seemingly seeking some form of connection, whether fleeting or enduring, I cannot say. Regrettably, this lead proved to be of little assistance, leaving the investigation at a standstill. As the inquiry progressed, detectives crafted a profile of the suspect, aiming to unravel the cold case. The profile depicted a young male, aged between 15 and 25, likely leading a perilous lifestyle in Charlottetown. There was a suspicion that the assailant identified as bisexual or gay, possibly with a background of minor criminal offenses. Among the most significant pieces of evidence discovered at the scene was a pair of unfamiliar underwear and a handwritten note proclaiming, "I will kill again." Analysis of the handwriting revealed a unique style marked by circular motions and dotted circles above the eyes. However, investigators theorized that the note was not a legitimate threat, but rather an expression of rage. It was posited that the killer and his accomplice had returned to the residence in search of the misplaced underwear, inadvertently left behind after their initial encounter with Byron. When their search proved fruitless, they reacted in fury, leaving the ominous note as a remnant of their anger. The recovered underwear was identified as a medium-sized bikini-style Zers brand, featuring a 29.12-inch waist. In the years that followed, particularly during the 2000s, remarkable advancements in technology empowered investigators to meticulously analyze the male bodily fluid found on the fabric sample, allowing for the extraction of DNA. The findings unequivocally indicated that the DNA did not belong to Byron, nor did it correspond with any entries in the national database, an undeniable indication that it was linked to the perpetrator. Another pivotal piece of evidence emerged in the form of a discarded pair of socks, which also harbored DNA. Although the police successfully identified the individual who had worn the socks, they chose to keep this information confidential. This person was an accomplice of the killer, but tragically they had passed away in the late 1990s, leading the investigation to a disheartening impasse. Nevertheless, the Charlottetown police remained resolute in their quest to unravel Byron's case, regardless of the time it might demand. They diligently collected DNA samples from all individuals who might have had any connection to Byron, including men he may have encountered that fateful night, yet no matches were discovered. In 2018, the police received 2 enigmatic phone calls from an unidentified man near Charlottetown Mall. He asserted that he possessed vital information regarding Byron's murder, his voice laced with urgency. However, he vanished as swiftly as he had appeared, leaving no trace of his identity or means of contact. More than 3 decades had elapsed since Byron's tragic end, yet the truth remained out of reach. While the police believed they had pinpointed the accomplice, the identity of Byron's killer continued to linger as a haunting enigma. Then, quite unexpectedly, a breakthrough emerged, infusing the investigation with renewed vigor. After 35 arduous years, a glimmer of hope illuminated the Byron Carr murder case. In the spring of 2022, investigators took a bold step. They revisited the evidence from the crime scene and subjected a piece of underwear to genetic genealogy testing. This intricate process involved uploading the DNA profile to genetic testing databases, with the aspiration of uncovering a match among the relatives of the killer. It was a painstaking endeavor, but ultimately it bore fruit. In January 2024, the police finally unearthed a promising lead. Todd Joseph Gallant, now 56 years of age, would have been merely 21 at the time of the murder. The memories of that fateful November day in 1988 undoubtedly resurfaced for many individuals. At the time, investigators were unfamiliar with Gallant's name. He had previously been convicted in Prince Edward Island for breaking and entering in 1987. During that period, he resided in Charlottetown, not far from Byron Carr. Shortly after the murder, he departed for the United States, only to return to Charlottetown in 2022. On January 26, 2024, Gallant was apprehended in connection with Byron Carr's murder, facing charges of first-degree murder and tampering with human remains. While the investigation was beginning to piece together the narrative, numerous questions lingered. What truly transpired that night? What could have compelled Gallant to commit such an act? For Byron's family, the pursuit of justice remains ongoing. John, Byron's brother, was overcome with emotion when the Charlottetown police formally charged Gallant with the murder. His heartfelt reflections on his brother were deeply moving. The investigation encountered significant obstacles, including societal biases and the apprehension of witnesses, leaving many inquiries unresolved. As the trial approaches, the family holds on to the hope that Gallant's sentencing will not only provide justice and closure in this long-standing case, but also shed light on broader issues of prejudice and violence against the LGBTQ+ community. Was Byron Carr's murder motivated by animosity towards his sexual orientation, or is there a deeper narrative yet to be uncovered? The truth remains elusive for the time being, but it is only a matter of time before it emerges.
April 11th, 1968. Hiram Ross Graham, a 47-year-old decorated World War II veteran, embarked on his usual milk delivery route but failed to return home. The milk company filed a missing person report later that evening when his truck did not arrive as scheduled. Despite extensive search efforts, it was not until the following day that he was discovered through an aerial search deep in the woods of Vero Beach, Florida. Tragically, Hiram Graham was found deceased beside his milk truck, having been shot 3 times in an execution-style manner. His murder occurred just days after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., raising concerns about a potential link to the prevailing racial tensions of the time. The motives behind the execution of this cherished local figure remain a mystery. Was it an act of personal vengeance, or was it related to issues of race or robbery? These questions lingered unanswered for over 50 years until they were finally addressed in 2024. During the latter part of World War II, the U.S. Army engaged in the pivotal Battle of the Bulge against Germany, a conflict that significantly influenced the war's outcome. Hiram Ross Graham was among those who fought bravely in this battle, earning the Purple Heart Medal from the President for his sacrifices on the battlefield. Following the war, he took on leadership roles, including serving as chairman of band associations and as commander of disabled American veterans. In the 1960s, Graham relocated to Vero Beach, Florida, with his family and began his career as a milk salesman for the Borden Milk Company. In addition to his sales role, he also served as the commander of the Civil Air Patrol for the district. Known for his warm-hearted demeanor, Graham was beloved by his customers, often assisting those who struggled to afford milk. He and his wife, Doris, raised 2 sons and a daughter, enjoying a fulfilling life in the picturesque city of Vero Beach, unaware that it would come to an abrupt end. On the morning of Thursday, April 11th, 1968, Graham was following his regular delivery route in the Gifford neighborhood when a local girl observed him engaged in conversation. This moment marked the last time he was seen alive. After completing his delivery, Graham did not return home, raising concerns when he failed to bring the truck back to the Fort Pierce office of the Borden Milk Company. The Indian River County Sheriff's Office was notified, initiating a search in the vicinity of Graham's route, but he was nowhere to be located. As worries escalated, an aerial search was organized the next day to cover the city and surrounding wooded areas. From the air, officers discovered a disturbing sight in a forested region between North and South Gifford Roads, a milk truck with a man lying beside it. Upon reaching the scene, their worst fears were realized. It was Graham, who had been shot 3 times in an execution-style manner. An autopsy indicated that the shots were fired from a low-caliber weapon, and approximately $70 to $80 was missing from the truck. Interviews with locals in the Oslo and Gifford areas revealed information about the girl who last saw Graham. She recounted that she approached his truck and observed him conversing with 2 African-American men. Graham assured her he would return shortly, after which the 3 individuals drove away in his truck. Shortly thereafter, witnesses reported hearing several gunshots. According to police reports, a Chevrolet from the early 1950s, occupied by 2 unidentified males, was seen speeding away from the area just minutes after the shots rang out. The girl's account indicated that the 2 men who entered Graham's milk truck were armed. The question lingered. Did Graham know them, or were they threatening him for reasons unknown? The circumstances surrounding their interaction and the subsequent events remained a mystery. Despite the diligent efforts of the authorities, both individuals involved remained unidentified. The perpetrators successfully evaded capture. On April 15, 1968, Larry Edwin Graham, just 16 years old at the time, received the heartbreaking news of his father's death from sheriff's officers. Hiram was laid to rest in Crestlawn Cemetery following a military farewell service. Over the subsequent 6 years, numerous attempts were made, with more than 15 investigations conducted across the county to uncover leads on the assailants, yet none proved fruitful. The case of the veteran soldier's murder ultimately went cold. After 38 years, the tragic event surrounding Graham's homicide faded from memory. In 2006, however, Larry Graham stepped forward to advocate for his father's case. During an open interview with a local media outlet, he and his family accused a man named Thomas Williams from Indian River County of being responsible for Hiram Graham's murder. Larry expressed the family's strong belief in this individual's potential involvement, although the basis for this conviction was not disclosed. This marked the first indication of renewed interest in the case in nearly 4 decades, prompting the sheriff's office to reopen the investigation. However, before they could delve into the allegations against Thomas Williams, who resided in Indian River County, he sent a letter to the editor of a local newspaper. In his letter, he asserted that he had been unjustly implicated in a random case and claimed to have no knowledge of the situation. He firmly denied any connection to the case and cautioned the newspaper against tarnishing his reputation. Consequently, the investigation lost its momentum and once again fell into dormancy. Years later, in 2022, the cold case received its first significant clues when a lead emerged from an unexpected source within the county jail itself. An inmate whose name remains undisclosed but who had a connection to Thomas J. Williams reported that Williams had confessed to him about the murder of a milkman in the past. This inmate informed the detectives that Thomas Williams was a highly dangerous individual with a history of multiple arrests and convictions for various felonies. Seeking solid verification of this claim, the detectives pursued additional individuals associated with Thomas Williams. Their investigation led them to a woman from Miami in 2023 who had previously been married to Williams before their divorce. Although she opted for anonymity, she provided crucial information to the authorities. She testified that Williams had also confessed to her regarding the shooting of the milkman. With 2 independent testimonies from witnesses who had never met and were unaware of each other's statements, the detectives felt they had gathered sufficient evidence for a conviction. However, Thomas Williams had passed away from natural causes in 2016. Sheriff Eric Flowers noted that both witnesses chose to come forward only after Williams's death. While he was alive, they considered him a significant threat to their safety and that of their families. In their separate accounts, both witnesses expressed that Williams's death empowered them to speak out, as he was no longer a danger. "I would have never said anything to you before. As long as he was alive, he was a threat to me and my family. We would have never told you, but the fact that he is now dead gave me the courage to come forward," one of the witnesses remarked. Larry mentioned that the murder of his father occurred during a period of heightened racial tensions following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. There is a belief that the father may have been targeted in the largely African-American neighborhood of Gifford. However, Sheriff Flowers has refuted these allegations, asserting that the primary motive behind the crime was robbery. Following Graham's passing, the Bordone Milk Company reported that approximately $70 to $80 was unaccounted for from the truck. Concerning the second individual who was with Thomas Williams during the incident, Sheriff Flowers indicated that they have a potential suspect in mind, but require further verification from additional witnesses. He has urged anyone with relevant information to reach out to the Indian River County Sheriff's Office. In April 2014, Thomas J. Williams was found guilty of murdering Hiram Graham. During a press conference, Larry Graham reflected on his father's brave life and the lengthy ordeal his family faced. After 56 years, the Graham family finally achieved closure, allowing the valiant Hiram Graham to rest peacefully as a war hero. On August 26, 1998, the city of Pensacola experienced a tragic event that would cast a long shadow over the community for an astonishing 26 years. After completing his shopping at a Winn-Dixie supermarket on Navy Boulevard, 46-year-old Stephen Davis, a former Army veteran, was preparing to head home. He drove an old yellow cab, which served as both his personal and workplace vehicle, as a cab dispatcher. Unbeknownst to him, someone was already waiting inside his cab. At approximately 4 a.m., as he entered the vehicle, he was met with a sudden barrage of gunfire. 3 shots rang out from the back of the cab, leaving him in shock. In a desperate attempt to escape, he exited the car and tried to flee toward the Winn-Dixie, located just across the parking lot. Unfortunately, he stumbled and fell, ultimately succumbing to his injuries. The nature of the attack suggested it was premeditated, yet identifying the individual responsible for this heinous act proved to be a formidable challenge. In fact, it would take nearly 3 decades before any sense of closure could be achieved. The question remains, why did it take such an extended period? Upon the arrival of law enforcement at the scene, they meticulously examined the lifeless form of Stephen, noting the grievous gunshot wound to his jaw and 2 additional wounds to his right posterior thorax. It was evident that Stephen had succumbed to his injuries shortly after collapsing in the lot. As investigators sought to unravel the mystery, they stumbled upon Stephen's abandoned cab near Navy Boulevard. The driver's door and rear passenger doors stood ajar, while the driver's side window lay shattered, hinting at the chaos that had unfolded. Forensic experts meticulously combed through the crime scene, uncovering a bloody fingerprint that was subsequently sent for analysis. The blood was confirmed to belong to Stephen Davis, yet the fingerprint yielded no matches in the database. Sheriff Chip Simmons of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office revealed that they had attempted to find a match on 3 separate occasions, all to no avail. Although CCTV footage captured the incident, it proved to be of little assistance, as no distinguishing features were discernible. In a poignant tribute to Stephen, his employer closed its doors for the day, allowing all to attend the funeral, where a procession of cabs lined the streets in solemn remembrance. In the aftermath of the tragedy, a detailed flyer circulated, depicting a man seen in the vicinity around the time of the murder, described as either a job applicant or a current employee of a nearby establishment. Yet no leads emerged from this effort. With the investigation stymied and no further evidence to pursue, the police were compelled to classify the case as unsolved, leaving it to languish in obscurity for decades. However, in a remarkable turn of events, 25 years later in 2023, the Escambia County Sheriff's Office enlisted the expertise of over 20 retired officers to revisit a selection of cold cases, among which was the haunting case of Stephen Davis. Following the decision to reopen the Stephen Davis case, law enforcement utilized advanced technology to conduct tests, resulting in a match for a bloody fingerprint in early 2024. In 2012, Donald Holmes II was apprehended for a home invasion robbery in Escambia County and subsequently sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2014, with a scheduled release in 2032. The fingerprint linked to the incident was identified as belonging to Donald Holmes II. As the investigation progresses, the Escambia County Sheriff's Office announced on the morning of March 5, 2024, that they would be charging Holmes with the murder of Stephen Davis. In response to the arrest, Stephen's 2 surviving sisters expressed their sentiments, stating, "I'm glad you enjoyed your freedom. Now you're going to be thinking about this until God takes you home." Currently, there have been no additional updates from law enforcement or prosecutors regarding the timeline for the trial.